Yeah, well, I'm actually 17 years old now. It was my birthday, just at the end of February. So I'm
Oh,
very newly 17 years old. So I keep telling everyone I'm still 16, but I am 17. And I'm currently doing my A levels. So I'm doing politics, English language, and psychology. That's why I'm still in my
okay.
school uniform because I came home and
That's
then did
okay.
piano. So I'm still in my
You look very
uniform, but
smart.
thank you. And basically, I've been working for Sky News for 4 years. So within Sky, I do reports about current affairs explained for younger people, but we didn't want it to be condescending. So, it's explaining really important issues because, young people should know about them. We should know about, the way that Parliament is run. We should know about, the Queen. We did a big thing about, the Queen when she passed away and about wars and, even vaping. So it's talking all about issues. So it's a place where kids can go and get reliable information. So I've been doing that for a while and I've had so many amazing opportunities. But before that, I was doing some modeling and some like adverts. And I've always had, a bit of a passion for Formula One because my dad, I've grown up with him watching Formula One, and my cousin in Canada, he made a go-kart one time when I was there. Like himself, he's like not much older than me, and just when we were really young. So I was having some fun in that. And my family in Canada have always watched Formula One, but I always noticed that it was my uncles and my grandparents and my dad who were watching it, and then all my female, cousins and aunts would go and do something else. So I'd watch it, but then I'd be like, oh, maybe I shouldn't be here. Maybe I should go and, see what my female side of my family is doing. So I'd
Yeah.
usually do that, but I always had like a weird interest for it. I think it was just because I watched it and I was like, how are they going this quick? And I always like find it interesting because it's like they look the same. The cars look the same, but they're different. They've got different designs. All the drivers are different. So it really intrigued me, and I was just so interested in how they could actually go that quick. And I always wondered how the drivers felt in the car.
Yeah.
And then at Sky, I heard them saying that they wanted to make Formula One a bit more fresh and like get more young people involved because, a lot of the time when people think about it, they think of men, they think of older men, and, they don't really think about young people, especially females getting into it. So I was like, oh my gosh, this is perfect for me. I already have a passion for it. And, it's something that I think is really important, getting, more females and especially more young people into the sport because it's such an amazing sport. I mean, and it's not just about the driving, like there's so many aspects to it. So I really wanted people to understand that. So when I heard them say that, I was like, gosh, I got to get jump on this opportunity. So I made so many notes. I made driver like top trumps, so like cards of each
Oh,
driver to
wow.
help me remember everything. I made like I had a folder with all the notes in. And then when it came to picking someone to go to Budapest for the Grand Prix, they ended up picking me along with some other people on the show. So I got to do that and I loved it. But I've got to say the first time I did commentary, I had no idea what I was in for. I got in there and I was like, yeah, and then I was like, oh my gosh, this is actually really hard. So I found that really difficult. But the first kind of like experience I had within Formula One was like I got to meet all the drivers. You can see it behind me, like in the
Yeah.
media pack, which was just amazing. Like I was having so much fun. And then since then, I've been commentating on the races. And actually, no, that's wrong. The first experience I had was with Sebastian Vettel. They're
Wow.
just
No
like, wow,
less.
we're going to go to Silverstone with Sebastian Vettel. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's exciting. But since then, I've just been doing commentary on the races. So it's at Biggin Hill, like the Formula One kind of
Yeah.
base. Really cool. And I do it there. And it's a lot of fun, but I've definitely learned a lot because I did not realize how hard it is. Like being in there for like 3 hours, I sit down while I'm doing it, but I get out and it's literally like I've run a marathon. Like I'm so tired after I do it. That was a very long explanation, but that's basically how I got into it.
Absolutely perfect. And it sounds as though you've managed to combine a passion, like a sporting passion that you like to watch, with a potential career. How did you amass so much information about Formula One? Was it literally just research, research, research? Or did Sky Sports open the door for you to be able to go and talk to some of the teams? Did you watch Drive to Survive? How did you amass all this information to get you into the position to be able to commentate? Because you need information at your fingertips when you're commentating.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I made like most of my research myself. So I searched everything up and I printed out every time I do a race, I print out maps of the track and then I write things on there. So I did most of the stuff, but I also tried to do like a bit of karting so that I can
Right.
understand exactly how the drivers are feeling. And I've not
Yeah.
done too much because absolutely, I'm not very good at it. Like I'm not very good. I'm getting better, but I'm not very good. It's because I get in the car and I don't want to use the brake for some reason. Like my body stops me. They're like, it's like, no, you gotta go. So then I crash and then I get taken off and then I get put back on and then I do it again and they take me off. But I'm getting better at actually using the brake. But every time I go karting, my commentary I feel like gets better because I actually understand
Right.
how drivers are feeling. And I've heard people say that before, but I never really thought that it would make that much of a difference. But it actually does because, you know, no one knows. Like, I always think that the best commentators are people who have an experience driving, with anything. Like, a lot of football commentators
Yeah.
are footballers because, they understand the sport so much. So I always find that helps me. And also, like, just speaking to people, at F1 and also, as you said, Drive to Survive, because that really gives you like that personal kind of idea of the drivers, which I think really helps me. Like from watching Drive to Survive, and even like it sounds crazy, but like following their Instagram, I find things out about them that I can mention on the show because it is like a broadcast for show, like for children.
Yeah.
So there's loads of extra things, so I don't have to be too technical. So I find that knowing these extra facts about the drivers that I've just found from their social media, maybe, about their pets, I can bring into the broadcast. And that's
Yeah.
what young people like knowing. Like, you need to teach them about, what DRS stands for, but they like hearing what pets, like Alex Albon literally has a whole zoo. And, we did a whole thing about that on the show. So things like that. But I really think the most helpful things are definitely the research I do myself. I make like bullet points and really key things, notes about past Grand Prix in this certain area, who usually does well here, what the weather's meant to be like, and then a grid like drawn out and like the map. And then also what I do is before we kind of allocate who's doing each thing. So someone might do like the final lap, someone's going to do the first lap, and then someone will do like the person who's going to do like each thing within it, and then someone does the actual map of the grid. So we kind of plan it out like that. But I've really just learnt myself. Like if I watched the first time I did commentary, it was not very good. So I think since then I just realized that I really need to like be on it with all my facts and statistics. So I do most of it myself, but just speaking to people, like interviewing drivers, it makes me so much better, when I'm actually
Yeah.
there. And also everyone at F1, like when I'm doing it is so helpful. Like we all kind of share notes with each other and share things. Like before we go in, we have like a big meeting where we kind of put all our ideas forward so that, we're all on the same boat because no one wants anyone to do badly. We want to, work together. So we all help each other really.
Yeah, I mean, I think Drive to Survive has, as a show, really shaken up Formula One and made it more accessible.
Mhm.
I would agree that in the past it was quite male dominated,
Yeah.
and it didn't help that they used to have pit girls, which I don't know if
Yeah.
you have ever seen
Yeah.
any footage with the pit girls, but
Yeah.
it seemed quite misogynistic. But that
Definitely.
is definitely changing. We've got people like Natalie Pinkham who are, broadcasters within
Yeah.
Formula One. Now we've got
And
you.
like F1 Academy as well,
So
which
that's what I
is,
was about to come on
yeah,
to. So
I took your words out your mouth.
tell me what you know about the F1 Academy and how that's building women in Formula One.
Yeah, well, I was at the launch day with Susie Wolf for that, and I met Jess Edgar, and I mean, it was just incredible. Like, I was so happy to see it, somewhere where, females could all be together doing what they love. And also, I like how it's not like watered down, like it's normal races, And the thing I like is it's every driver there deserves to be there, and they are amazing. And I think it's amazing that there is somewhere that appreciates women. And I mean, they've got their new, Netflix show coming out, which
Yeah.
my mum and I are so excited to watch because we've watched Drive to Survive and I'm like, I've got to see this one. And
Yeah.
yeah, and yeah, I'm gonna, I think, meet up with Abby Pulling soon, maybe to do an interview or something, which would be absolutely incredible because,
Yeah.
she's an amazing driver. But I
Yeah.
just think it's an amazing initiative. And I think it's so great that, someone like Susie Wolf runs it because she's got so much experience and I mean, all the drivers are amazing. And I can't wait to see, a female driver in Formula One because I know it's going to happen. Definitely. I'm very
Okay, so
excited.
that's your opinion, is that one day we'll have women and men competing together.
I definitely think so because the thing is, there's absolutely no reason in the whole entire universe why a man would be better at driving than a woman because the only thing that it's down to is numbers. Like you can't argue and say that, we see men and women going through and men are just better. It's not that. It's because you see a million times more men moving up the ranks than women because there's not as many opportunities. I mean, you can get into karting, but statistically, women get into karting later than men. I know that there's
Right.
more, getting into it earlier, but it's not as popular as a sport for women because it's not targeted at women. I mean, we're definitely seeing more and more, but there's no logistical reason I mean, this in the entire world, that says
Yep.
that a man is a better driver than a woman because, nothing to do with weight. I mean, being lighter is better for driving, and women, biologically are usually lighter than men. So that's not
Yep.
it. And it's nothing about mindset because, every man and woman has a different mindset. It's not like, you're going to be a fierce and fast driver if you're a man and you're going to be a slow, blah, blah, blah driver if you're a woman. There's no logical reason at all. So I definitely think, I think it is difficult because obviously, as I said, the numbers of women getting into it are less than men. But if the sport continues for many, many years, which I think it will, then I definitely think we'll see a female in Formula One.
I mean, it is considered to be quite an expensive sport, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because, and I mean, many sports are expensive. Golf is expensive. Skiing is expensive compared to something like football, which, you can just go and play in the park with a football and join a club, and it's much cheaper. But I do think that with programs, Netflix is backing for the
Yeah.
Formula One Academy show. I think that will really make people more aware, or make parents and girls more aware that the sport is available. When you talk to the male drivers, and I don't know whether you've ever brought up with them the idea of competing against women. If you have, what's their reaction been?
I don't think I've brought it up. I think I might have in Budapest in the commentary, like not in the commentary booth, in the media pen. I think with a couple of drivers, but and I remember someone saying it might have been a McLaren driver saying that I think it was saying that they're completely open to it and that they'd love to see more females. And I remember actually I spoke to Lewis Hamilton. I remember and I
As you
said to
do.
him, yeah, as you do. And I said like I think I asked him, do you think we'll see a female? And then if so, if you'd, you know, want to, race against a female and if you're open to that. And he said definitely. And he said kind of the same thing that I said. He said, it's all down to numbers and that, females definitely have the capability. They're no different. And I remember him saying something about, seeing an amazing woman and, being completely open to racing against a woman. I remember him
Yeah.
saying that, but it's not a question that I asked everyone. Because I think I was
But
meant to, for that time, I was asking them, I was basically just meant to ask them about the race, but I remember slipping in an extra couple ones like that to some drivers.
that's what all the best reporters do, for sure. And do you feel like the big names like McLaren, Ferrari, Red Bull are investing enough in women and girls? That's not meant to be a controversial question. Sorry, I'm not trying to get some juicy scoop on what you
Mhm.
think, but I'm more just like interested from your point of view. Do you think they could be doing more, investing more, just being more inclusive in some way?
I think that there's always going to be more that like every team can do really because it's like obviously we know that Formula One is a sport that has a lot of money. So you do
Yes.
see sometimes them using money for things and you're like gosh they could have really put it into that. So I think there's always going to be more that they can do because there are more opportunities for men. So I'm not saying take the opportunities away from the men because there's incredible men within the sport, but if they could include more females within those things, within those events, decisions, and maybe just get more females in like the paddock and, in the pit lane learning, then, I think that would be amazing because, you can say you're doing stuff, but like it never seems like enough really until we see, more females in the sport, more females moving up the rank, a female in Formula One, then I think we'll see that that's enough. But it's hard to know, like you can say you're doing stuff, but it's hard to know the impact if you're not really seeing it like
Yeah,
actually
I
happening.
agree.
Mhm.
And I think you raised a really good point at the beginning when you were talking about women in the sport in general, because, I would consider you to be a young woman who's now in the sport. You're not necessarily a driver,
Mhm.
but you're part of that community. And it all comes down to the roles like, the engineers and the strategists and the people
Yeah.
that work with the drivers, even down to the personal trainers of the
Yeah.
drivers. Um, are you seeing when you're, on the track, in the pit, are you seeing more women kind of behind the scenes? Do you think that number's growing?
I don't think I really am. Like when
Right.
I look back at it in the pit lane and stuff, I usually just see men. I see like the odd woman and they don't seem out of place. when I'm looking at them in a big group, but I do see more because I've only been like the first time I went into a paddock was about last year, but I don't really think that I was very just sorry. My mum's writing something in the corner and it's distracting me. What were you gonna say?
Yeah, first engineer,
Huh?
female engineer
Oh
in F1,
yeah.
remember? Yeah,
Oh
you were
yeah.
telling me about it. Sorry.
Oh yeah. She was saying about I showed you that article.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because there was the first female engineer in Formula One.
Yeah, I
But
remember.
going back to what I said, sorry.
That's
I
okay.
don't think that like when I do see women, they don't seem out of place. It doesn't seem like the people who they're with are out of place. But I can definitely notice in the pit lane, there's a significant less amount of women than men. But I've not really been, doing Formula One stuff that long. But
No.
I don't think I've seen an increase since I've been doing it. But there's definitely, like, say there were 10 men, maybe one or two of them would be a woman within the pit lane.
Okay. And how does that make you feel when you're in the pit lane? That you're in a very male dominated environment.
Yeah.
You're very articulate and you seem very confident, but it doesn't mean that it's not an intimidating environment to be working in. How do you feel?
I've definitely noticed it. Like, I remember really vividly the first time I went into the commentary booth, no
Yeah.
one said anything to me about being a female, but because of like things I had in my head already, I got in there and I was like 10 minutes into doing it and I looked around and there were like five people in there and everyone was a man. And then I kind of like put it on myself. No one really said anything to me, but it was just in my head. And I was like, everyone here's a boy. Like, why? I kind of doubted why I was there. And I was like, why am I here? Like, why have I been picked to do this? And I feel like there's always that feeling of like, it sounds bad, but like, did they pick me because I'm a girl and they want to have a girl in it? I've kind of gotten over that because I know that I put a lot of work into it. And, you can't really just get anyone who doesn't know about the sport to do it because like commentary is, I find it quite hard.
Yeah,
But
it's very
I
hard.
definitely like even if people don't, I mean, no one's really said anything about me being a female, but I've kind of put it on myself, maybe from what I've heard people say to other people or just ideas I have in my head that sometimes I do stop because I get so excited when I'm filming anything that, like nothing else really matters. But then there are times where I'm like, why am I here? Like it's weird. Like all of these people are boys or they're men, and I'm a girl and I'm just like, I'm doing it. So it does make me think like, oh, but then I always, go back and I'm like, no, I'm here for a reason. But I always have that in my head. I've noticed even, recently, like when I've been doing more commentary on F1 Kids, we have a lead commentator now. She's really great and she's a female. So, since she's come in, I'm like, yeah, there's some more females here. But at first, every time I'd go in, it would just be boys. And I'd be like, this is weird. Like I'm the only girl here. And it wasn't necessarily like a negative thing. And as I said, no one said anything to me. I think it's just because I'd heard so much about it before that I had that in the back of my mind, like I'd put it there. But I do notice myself thinking it from time to time, even when I'm like, filming something on a track or something.
Yeah, and I think I mean, I can understand how you feel like that. And I think it's a
Mhm.
shame because from what you've said, you've put in so much work to get to this point. It's definitely sounds like a meritocracy, and you
Mhm.
have gained that place legitimately, regardless of your gender. So all I can say is try not to think about it, and
Yeah.
just continue doing all the great stuff that you're doing.
Mhm.
Um, what does the future hold for you with regards to your career? So you're 17, I presume you're in lower six, um, you're doing your A levels. Do you see a future in sort of journalism, sports journalism, maybe
100%.
Formula One, or is there something else? Is this just a fun hobby at the moment?
Well, you know, it's quite hard to know because I mean, you'll know like everything in within the industry is kind of random. Like you get random things, you don't know how long you're going to be doing something for. But I'm doing my A levels and I didn't realize how much harder A levels are from GCSEs. So I went to sixth form and I was like filming like twice a week. I was missing school. And then it got to like a couple months in and I was like, don't really know what's going on. Because the courses were so much harder. Like it's a completely different language at A level. Like I started doing psychology and so I'd never done it before, like for GCSE. And I was like, can't miss lessons and then come back and not know what any of this stuff means because we're
Yeah.
having exams and I was getting really stressed out. So I cut back on my filming a bit just because, I can't do well when I'm filming if I'm worried about my schoolwork because I think balance is the most important thing. And I mean, I'm a bit of a perfectionist. Like I really, if I do badly in something, I get really like frustrated. Like I like everything to just go smoothly. And I always try my best, but if I don't feel like I've done my best, I get really annoyed. So, if my marks aren't very good at school, then I get really frustrated. So I know what I can handle. So I kind of took a break from film, not break like completely, but like there was one point this year where I was going to like in a week, I was in Scotland and then London and then like Wales and we were going everywhere. And I was like, it's just a bit much. But I'm hoping to do, more commentary for this season, which would be really great. And I've started a podcast as well, which is really
Wow.
exciting.
What's
Yeah,
the name of your podcast?
it's called Top of the Grid. The first episode came out like last week, I think, but you should it's all about empowering women within the
Fantastic.
motorsport world, but then we didn't want to alienate the men. So we're still, celebrating men, but really, talking about how more women can get into the sport and like not just, within driving with all different things. And it's with a girl that I work with in Veloce racing and Eon. We do these events where we go to different areas and schools come and then we teach them about motorsports. So I'm doing that and then just some odd reports because, I still do political things and reports like that. So a little bit of everything,
Very
but for my
busy.
future, yeah, I'm quite busy, but if I'm not busy, I go a bit crazy. Like I hate not doing anything. I
Yeah.
wake up at like 6 every morning, even if I go to bed really late and I want to do something. I have a lot of energy, so I have to kind of do something with it, or
Great.
I
Great. You
get really
sound very
bored.
busy. Just don't burn yourself out too young.
I think
Um,
from doing
so
it
just
because I've been filming since like I started like stage productions when I was 5, so. I think I know what I can handle, but when I'm older, I definitely want to keep doing journalism. I really, really, really love like sports and doing something to do with women in sports. But
yeah,
I know that, some areas of it are quite like not crowded, but there's a lot of people wanting to break into that. So definitely I'd like to do something to do with women in sports because I'm really passionate about it. I did some stuff with the 100, which was really, I loved doing that. So I'm really passionate about sports and about getting more females into sport. But then I
yeah.
love the political side as well, because I've interviewed like quite a few like politicians and like prime ministers, and I love that. So then maybe if I could talk to them about getting more females in sports, then that could be a whole thing. But I'm definitely gonna do this when I'm older. If I can, then I will.
That's fantastic. I mean, this is exactly what We Are Girls in Sport is about getting more girls and women into sport. And we really believe that there's a sport for everybody.
That is.
Whether that's, going for a walk every day and that's your thing, or getting into a car and driving. We really
Mhm.
believe that there is, yeah, something for everybody. And you're 17, so in the UK, you can now start driving lessons. I
Yes.
mean, dare we ask, have you been in a Formula One car
I've
yet?
actually I've sat in a Formula One car.
Right.
I've not driven it, but there might be a picture. Oh, you can't see it. It's just this
Okay.
one here with
Okay.
Sebastian Vettel. So I've
Oh,
sat in a
very
Formula
cool.
One car. I've gone go-karting, and my dad's tried to teach me how to drive, but it ended up with some shouting and pulling the handbrake. So we had a little break from that. But he said in the Easter holidays, he's going to try and teach me. But I don't think it's very good for parents to teach their kids how to drive because it just ends in shouting. I mean, we were on holiday, and my dad was like, "This is the perfect time to teach you, a bit of driving." So I got in the car and I started driving, and then he was like, "Put your foot on the." It was a dead end. He went, "Put the foot on the brake. Put your foot on the brake." And I put it all the way down on the accelerator. I just got it mixed up, and it went flying. And he pulled the handbrake. It was like, "Scarlett!" And then we sat there for like 10 minutes in silence, and I was like, and then he went, "Get out the car," and we switched seats, and he drove all the way back home. And I was like, "Oopsie," but
Oh, that sounds, well, yeah, I mean, that sounds scary, but it's also very typical
yeah,
of learning to drive with your parents. So yeah,
yeah.
maybe try and get some lessons. Just two more questions. So first of all, do you play, I mean, in your very busy life, do you actively participate in any sports?
Yeah, so my dad used to do mountaineering, and we live in Sheffield, so we're very close to the Peak District. So when it's
Beautiful.
sunny, then
Yeah.
we always go bouldering in the Peak District. I love it. But because it's a bit cooler now, then I just go bouldering indoors. So I've been doing that since I was really young. And I really love climbing. I don't know why. I just love it. And it's an amazing exercise because it's like a whole body exercise. And it
Yeah.
just makes me, and it really I didn't realize, but like I had a break from climbing and then I went back and I'd lost so much strength. I didn't realize how, amazing it is for you. And I love being outside and climbing because we can bring our dog and then she has a nice walk while we're climbing. And I love the fresh air. And then if you go at a certain time, you can see the sunset. So I
Oh,
love that.
beautiful. And a
It's
beautiful
one of my
part of the
favorite
world as
things.
well.
Mhm.
And
But
when
also I do running as well.
do
I do
you?
some running. Yeah. And then in the summer, I do paddle boarding. I don't know if that really counts,
Yeah,
but
for sure. It's
paddle
good for
boarding
you.
and a
Very
bit of
good for your
kayaking.
core. Very good for
Yeah.
your core strength. Okay, last question. It could be a controversial one, and you might not want to answer it, but do you have a favorite team in Formula One that you support? That is your
Ferrari.
team? Ferrari. Oh my goodness, she didn't even have to think twice.
Well, I'm Italian, so
Okay.
and English. Actually, okay. So I love McLaren. I really like McLaren. I mean, they're doing incredibly at the minute, but I've been to the McLaren Technology Centre a couple times. I've interviewed Zach Brown, so I'm a big McLaren supporter. But like my granddad's a Ferrari supporter and my mum, so Ferrari. And I love red and I love Italy, so definitely Ferrari.
Fantastic. I love that. I love the way that you've summed it up there. It's
Yes.
really great. Scarlett, it was so lovely talking to you. You've got so much energy, like you say, and you're so passionate about what you
Thank
do.
you.
I just hope that your career goes from strength to strength, and I don't see why it won't, because you're clearly hardworking, diligent, you know your stuff, and yeah, you're so articulate. So good luck for the
Thank
future.
you.
I hope we can stay in touch and you can keep us informed
Definitely.
about your career.
Definitely.
And go and enjoy your evening. Piano lessons, interview. Hopefully you can just maybe go do some
Homework. I've got to do
homework.
my politics homework for
Oh
tomorrow.
dear. So much happening in politics. I'm sure you've got lots to talk about.
Yeah, well, thank you so much because I love any time I can talk about, women in sports because it's so important. And I feel like sometimes, some places just mention it to be able to like tick a box and say that they've spoken about women in sports. So, I think it's really important that there are places, where they are really passionate and, really proactive about getting more females into sport and, speaking out about it because it is important. And, it always upsets me when I talk to, girls who think that they can't do racing or they can't do something because someone said something to them or because they look on the TV and they only see boys when, there's no sport that is for a boy and one that's for a girl. There might be, male teams and female teams, but there's no sport that isolates, a man or a woman because we all have different strengths and as you said there's a sport for absolutely everyone. It
Yeah.
can be a really small level or a really high level, but I always find like when I was doing my GCSE exams, if I went for a short walk in between, my brain like when it started to switch off, I'd go for a quick walk, not go on my phone or anything, come back and I could do it. It's like it's just so good for you. It's not just about being part of a sport, but it's about like the friends, the fitness you get, it's everything. So you're doing something really important. So thank you so much for speaking to me.
Oh, thank you, Scarlett. Have a great
Thank you.
evening, and
Thank
yeah, let's
you.
keep in touch.
Definitely.
See you
Thank
later.
you.
Bye bye.
Bye.